Good to see all of you this morning. So good. Every week, man, I don't know about you guys. I get excited on Sunday night because I'm like, come on, Monday morning. Okay. Did you used to not get excited about Monday mornings? Anybody ever not be excited about Monday mornings? You're like, oh, Monday. Okay. You and I get to choose how we show up on Mondays. Yes or no? We get to choose how we show up all the way through this day, which is what we're talking about today as we lean in today. So if you pay attention to those emails that come in, we send those out so you know what's coming. All right. You'll see that today is all about defining one thing, and it's called time. All right. So today we're talking about time. You're welcome. Don't get off the call. Okay. Stay on. You're going to be okay. All right. You might get a little bit angry at me today, and that's okay. All right. My goal is to make sure that today we recognize that you and we are the ones in charge of our time, not other people, not other things. Okay. I know there's always things that are going to go throughout your day. I want us to get hyper focused on, though, doing one thing, which is this, and that's defining you within time. You with me on this? All right. So I coach about 40 people one-on-one. Collectively, it's about 78 people when we talk about team members and everything else. And the one thing I consistently hear is a challenge around time. All right. How many of you would say you've got that challenge? Okay. How many of you were just not honest with me? Or you were so busy that you didn't even hear my question? You know what I'm saying? All right. So here's what I found, though, and this is what I think we really, really need to hone in on. I don't think you and I can define our time if we don't define us. You with me? I think what happens is we just get up every day and we haven't really defined us, and we haven't really defined our direction or what we want or where we're going. So things just start happening and we start spending our day, everybody hear me, in a day of reacting rather than a day of controlling. Okay. You with me? It's just coming my way, right? We're constantly reacting. All right. So your calendar should not be running your world. You should be running your calendar, if that makes sense. You guys tracking with me on this? Okay. Other people don't run it. Circumstances don't run it. Things don't run it. So I think the first most important thing is that we've got to understand, if you're going to define your time, you got to define you. So the first thing I want you to recognize is this. If we don't know where we're going, all right, we've talked about on this call before, what's the one thing you want your life to be defined and marked by more than anything else? All right. I think we have to answer that question. What do I want my life to be defined by? What do I want my business to be defined by? And when we identify that, then we've got to take a look and ask this question. Does my time reflect that? You with me? Time gets a lot easier when you and I know directionally where we're going, correct? It gets a lot easier to make decisions on what I do with my time when I get real clear on where I'm going. So the first thing we've got to understand is this. I want to ask you a couple questions. Anybody on the call ever been able to freeze time? Anybody? It'd be sweet if we could, wouldn't it? Okay, my kids are 11, all right? And we're in a sweet season, man. And I would love I'm just being honest with you, I would love just to stop right here and be like, they're going to be 11 forever. Let's do that, right? Okay. But I don't get to do that, okay? How about slow it down? You've been able to slow it down a little bit? Okay. How about speed it up? You're like, you ever had a day where you're like, I need this one over? You ever had that? Like, had enough of Monday, bring me Tuesday, all right? How about, have you ever been able to add to it? Anybody? How many of you have said or thought, if I just had more time? Anybody? If I had one more, how many of you thought, if I had one more hour in my day, I could get it done? Okay. Can I tell you something? I love all of you. No, you wouldn't. You still wouldn't get it done. You'd just take 25 hours to do what you took 24 to do. Okay? It's the way we work. It's our humanity. Okay, so then my final question though is, can you manage time? And a lot of you are saying yes. But I just asked you, can you freeze it? You said no. I said, can you speed it up? And you said no. I said, can you slow it down? Can you add to it? And all of those questions you said no, but then I said, can you manage it? And you're like, yep. Okay, so here's what I want you to know today. You cannot manage time. You can manage you. That's it. I want you to ask yourself this question today. How are you behaving in time? You're welcome. I know we're coming at you strong this Monday. How are you behaving in time? Do you get to the end of the day and you're like, man, I just did not accomplish anything that I desired to accomplish today. You get to the end of the week, you're like, man, I just didn't desire anything that I desired to accomplish this week, okay? It's not time's fault. Number one, write that down. It's not time's fault, okay? I'd like for you to write this down too, and you may disagree with me. It's not other people's fault. I know that's where we like to put the blame. It's not other people's fault, okay? It comes down to the choices that you and I make within time. I'm going to show you a video real quick. I know you guys know I show you Ed Milet a lot, and that's because I learn a lot from that dude. I want you to hear how he views time and how he does what he calls manipulating time, how he takes a 24-hour day and he looks at it different and operates in it different, okay? So I want you to take some notes, listen to what he says. We're going to circle back up and dig in deep on time, all right? Here we go.
In the book, you say time is a constant, but we treat it as a variable. Explain that to us.
Well, time in general is a really interesting thing because the construct of a 24-hour day happened a long time ago. And it's incredible to me as technology's evolved. I get really detailed on time management in this book because it's really one of the maybe top 5 things that's changed my life and how I bend and manipulate time. And so there's a variable to it. We had a 24-hour day when there was no internet. Heck, we had a 24-hour day when there was no electricity. Right? And so we've gone from all of these technology upgrades where you can get information in the, get text, email, Google something anytime you want. We still measure time in 24-hour increments for a day. That's insane. So I started really about 20 years ago saying, this is crazy. We've all had those mornings where we can get more done in a morning than we do in a week. We all go, wow, what an incredible morning. That's because we've compressed time frames. So I now get 3 days, and every day the average entrepreneur gets 1. My first day starts from 6 a.m. to noon. And in there, I try to get as much fun, my faith, family stuff, work, etc., as I can in a window like that. And then day 2 goes off, and this little clock goes off in my head about noon every day. It's crazy, but it'll happen for everybody. Right? Okay, let me recalibrate. Let me take accountability. Let me assess. And then day 2 starts till 6 p.m. 6 p.m. to midnight's the 3rd day. The more you measure time, right? Most people once a year take inventory of their life. High performers, maybe it's once a month. Really great entrepreneurs once a week. What if it was 3 times in a given 24-hour day? Where you're making assessments, adjustments. And by the way, this includes fun, relaxation, and everything. But now I'm getting 21 days a week when the average person I was competing against as an entrepreneur is getting 7. Stack that up over a month, a year, 5 years, in my case, 30 years, you have a completely different existence in the world. And you are happier and more successful. So that's what I mean by bending and manipulating time. You are archaic if you measure a day in 24 hours anymore.
Wow. Yeah, that principle alone, you got to let that sit and go, okay, hold on, Ed. You're telling me that instead of 7 days, I can do 21 days in a week. That kind of hurts your brain to think about. But what you're saying is we're going to break this out into chunks of productivity, and it's not all work. You're not working for 18 hours. You're saying you're building in all of those things, but you're super intentional about those hours.
Yeah, and by the way, the more performance is measured, the more it improves. And the more scarce something is, the more valuable it becomes. That's why diamonds are more valuable than paper. If I got 24 hours to get something done, maybe it's not that important. But you start shrinking. Here's what the other thing starts to happen. Other people treat you differently. You're walking faster, talking faster. You appear more valuable. You appear busier to people. And there's an energy, there's a vibration to that stuff. Now, for me, obviously, Sundays for me are an exception. In my life, that's the day, the Lord, I take time off. But even in those days, I'm still crazy enough that about noon, church is over, I kind of recalibrate. All right, what am I doing with the kids now? Right? And somewhere around 6 p.m. on Sundays, kind of my mind starts to gravitate back. All right, what do I have next week? What do my planning need to be? But it's completely changed my life. And it's not easy at first, but after about a traditional month, you're going to go, this is crazy. It's noon. I'm restarting day 2. And it starts to happen to you. And you're I just use the word for it. You almost become superhuman. And I'm so glad it's one of the 2 things you picked, because there's a lot of details on the brain and faith and other things in the book. But if you said to me, hey, I can take something from you that would maybe give you kryptonite in your success. If you took my 21 days a week from me, I'm not sure I'd know where I'd be right now without that.
Wow, that is really powerful. So what does that look like when you snap and you go, all right, it's noon, it's time to recalibrate, reassess? What does that process look like for you?
Sometimes it's a 6-second thought of, okay, here I go. What just got done? What did I miss? What was the most important thing I didn't handle and sometimes it's a moment of reflection. Go, that was a great day. Wow, what an amazing breakfast with my daughter. And there's a point of reflection there. But for me, because I'm a little bit crazy, most of the time it's what didn't get done that now needs to get done in day 2. And so it's typically very quick. It's actually almost unconscious when it happens. It's not like I grab my day timer out and start going through some journaling process or anything like that. But an awareness gives us power. Awareness of a negative thought, it loses its power over us. Awareness of a positive thought magnifies it. So it's just becoming a more hyper-aware, more hyper-functional person when I'm just checking in on myself 3 times a day. And if I could really be hokey, it's a form of self-care. How am I doing? How am I feeling? What emotions did I just have the last 6 hours? That I want some different ones the next 6 hours. Did I serve God like I wanted to? Did I serve my mom like I wanted to? A lot of times for me, it's stuff that would normally get away from me. Like, I didn't call my mom yesterday. Now it's noon. I think I'm going to call my mom this day. And so it's things like that that just remind me to get centered and check in on myself.
So what happens, you're going through the day and it's easy when things are going well, you're checking everything off the list, you're getting the meetings done, the emails, but what about when things kind of go off track and something kind of catches you and it slows you down? What do you do to get back on the horse?
Well, that's the power of it. You're nailing it. It's that when that first, you have a bad 9 a.m. in your day, a meeting goes bad, someone cancels, you lose an account. What's that do? Torpedoes the next 16 hours or whatever it is left in your day, 15 hours. Now I got 3 hours and then it's a new day. And y'all know how you feel. You wake up that new day, it's just a little bit different. There's a different energy. There's a different focus. It's in the past. And so just the fact that there's a transition of a day, which sounds crazy, makes a big difference for me. The other thing I do though for me is I'm a big believer in changing your state physically. So if it's the top of that end of that day, I will literally take 5 minutes to do some push-ups on the floor, do some jumping jacks, walk around the building if I can get a workout in. But there's a connection between our mental health and our physical state that we're in. And so for me, when I'm down, when something's gone bad, what happens? You get stressed, you get tense, you hunch over, your breathing becomes shallow, your face drops. So for me, oftentimes, it's just changing my breathing. And here's a nutty one I do. I will give myself the gift of 5 minutes and I will listen to some of my favorite stand-ups who are buddies of mine, like Sebastian Maniscalco or someone like that, and just give myself a dadgum laugh for 5 minutes. It's the same physiology as working out, breathing, shoulders are back, and it just changes you. And also comedy just sometimes gives you a perspective like this is all okay, right? It's not the end of the world. But for me, that's the big power of it. If I have a bad day, I got another one in a few hours. And just trust me, everybody. The fact that your competitors or your peers still can get Google and get something done in 4 seconds that used to take 4 days, or had to make a phone call and get somebody to pick up and can now text, and they still measure themselves in 24-hour increments, and now you become aware, you become alert. Just that alone, you're gonna tell me in 2 or 3 months, you go, oh my gosh, my life is different. Everyone around me treats me differently, and it's not perfect, but oftentimes just the compression of time, the manipulation, I call it bending time, bends and changes your life.
Okay. I trust that was helpful to you this morning. Let's hear from you. Let's see your hand go up. What'd you write down? What'd you learn? What are you thinking through? Ernest, you got your hand up, buddy. Go for it.
Hey, Dusty. So, a couple of things. So, awareness is transformational, right? When he's talking about starting, like breaking it up for us normal people, how do you start that? Like, what would be a small thing you could do today that would start your mind thinking that way? Is what I would like to ask you. And then I thought it was pretty interesting how he says to change your state, right? Because those of us who went to the family reunion, Tony Robbins said when he was telling the story about how they were negotiating that when you change your state, you change your mind frame and everything, it works differently, which I thought was awesome. But for us normal guys, how do we start that? What's the first step that we do to start something like that? 'Cause it sounds awesome, but seems like a
Well,
lot.
well, so I think it's going to be, it could be different for everybody on the screen. I think part of it is exactly what we do right here on this call, Ernest, which is put ourselves into it. But you have to put yourself into the position that you desire for yourself to be. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you're just going to default to how you feel. You with me? Okay. My alarm goes off. My body does not feel like getting up. Okay, just so y'all know, I've said this before. My alarm doesn't go off and I just pop up and I'm like, it's going to be a good day. Let's go, right? My alarm goes off and my body says, hey, this is painful, right? Maybe we need to sleep in a little bit more, okay? But I have to change my position and get into the position that I desire to get into. I think that's part of what he's talking about here, right? Is adjusting our position based on time. Are you guys tracking with me? So it could, you heard him say that, you know, when he has a moment of down or frustrated, he listens to somebody from like one of his comedy buddies, right? And it changes his position. It could be that you turn on, for me, I turn on music. That's it for me. When I want to change my position, I feel that I'm not going in a direction I want to, I turn on music. I'll literally stop what I'm doing. I will sit down in a chair right over here next to my desk, and I just change my position. Okay. Does that make sense, Ernest? And so I think the beauty of what he's talking about is, how many of you have had a day where you're like, I just want the day to be over. Let's go to the next one. You ever had those? Okay. Like you may be, hey, it's 8 a.m. You may already be there. You're like, it has already happened, coach. I need to get to Tuesday. What he's saying is, no, you can reassess today because you have, did you hear what he said? He said, I know I got another day coming in a few hours. So at noon, I get to reassess. I get to look back and go, okay, what did I do well? Where can I improve? What did I not get done that I could have gotten done? Okay, I've got my next day right in front of me. I'm going to go accomplish it now. So to me, it's a reset button. Does that make sense? Ernest, does that help?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's interesting because when I used to work at Citibank, for us, we would take a walk around the building for like 15 minutes, come back, and then start over. And it's interesting how if I don't do that now, but I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's training ourselves, right? And this is why we talked about it's not, right? Time is a constant, not a variable. Time's going to move. You and I have to decide how are we going to operate within that time? How do we do that well? And if between 6 and noon we didn't, okay, well, we can adjust between 12 and 6. And did you hear what he said? He's not saying he works the whole time. That's not what he said. He said, I have fun, I have faith, I have work, right? I have all these different things in the middle of that. All right. Now, I think where we've got to get better at is what are we doing within those windows of time, right? What are we compressing in? Do we have a plan? Do we have an agenda? And then are we honoring it? I think one question to ask yourself is, hey, did I honor myself, my family, my why? Did I do that in the last 6 hours? Right? And if not, okay, I can make an adjustment in the next 6 hours. All right. It's constant adjustment. Michael Cheever brought up the basketball tournament that's going on. What I love watching about basketball is the adjustments that take place all the way through a basketball game. Okay. Like people be down 25 points. Game's over, right? No coming back. And then they make adjustments. And what happens? They come back and win the entire thing. Right? They're doing the same thing Ed Milet just talked about. They're going, hey, First half is over. Okay. Quarter one is over. Quarter two, we got to do this better. We got to adjust here and we've got to operate this way. Awesome. So they do that in quarter two and all of a sudden things look different. It's breaking your days up like that so that you can control what happens within those time blocks. Cherie, what do you got?
Hey, good morning, everybody. One of the things that I think is really important was how you opened up the clip, and you asked a question that said, "What do I want my life or business to be defined by?" And so to go back to Ernest's question, we have to make sure that we are defining our why, our goal, whatever it is, that thing that we want our business and our life to be defined by first. And I loved how he talked about how the first part of his day was spent doing just that, reaffirming what that is. And so for what I got from it was that we have to make sure that we have a purpose and a goal defined and go from there. So that's it.
That's right. And then asking ourselves, Cherie, right, in those increments,
Yes.
in the last 6 hours, did I honor that?
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what I loved about it, because you bring that, you incorporate that in.
Right.
And so that's the one thing that I'm taking away is that even if at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm writing out my goal, I need to bring that back in during those times of the day and train myself to do that as well. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. He said at noon, right? A switch went off. Hey, new day. I got the next 6 hours. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to accomplish? What did I leave out? Right? Where was I not highly effective and efficient? Right? One of the biggest challenges we have in our time is we're just not effective and efficient within our time. Right? Okay. Jackie, what do you got?
I think my biggest takeaway that I'm getting is it will allow me, breaking the day down like this will allow me to be very present in the time of the day that I'm in. So if family time, me time is midday, then be present there, because in the morning I would have either already done a chunk of work, or I know that the chunk of work is going to get done in the latter part of the day, versus, you're on a Zoom yet trying to send a text to someone, or you looking for a property so you're not really focused. So I think the biggest, again, the takeaway for me would allow me to be very present in whatever portion of the day it is.
That's a good way to put it, Jackie. That's a good way to put it. I think about that final time block. He talks about the 6 to midnight time block. Did you hear him talk about that? 6 to midnight. That's kind of the next one, right? I can tell you around the Oglesby house, 6 o'clock, work's done. Game over. Okay. That's our time as a family, very intentional, right? And to that point, I think part of what Jackie's talking about as well is you and I, in each one of these blocks, we have to have our non-negotiables in there. Okay. And here's the definition of a non-negotiable. You ready? Write it down. It's non-negotiable. Okay. I don't know if y'all know that or not. That's the definition. Okay. The definition is it's non-negotiable. So what are the non-negotiables that you have in your calendar that you're going to honor, that are in alignment with your purpose? Okay. So we've got to understand, we've got to decide what we want. We got to make a decision to go get it. And then our calendar should reflect that. And then we should be honoring it in those time blocks. Okay. So if you didn't have a great morning, it doesn't mean you can't have a great afternoon, right? We get to reset that. I'll never forget this. I know I talk a lot about my upbringing, and it's because I had these great people around me that taught me a lot of things. One of them was my high school tennis coach named Jerry Tyser. Just taught me so much. I'll never forget, we were on our way to the state tournament, and we showed up 6 o'clock in the morning. We're all getting on the van, and there were only about 10 of us going to the state tournament. And when we got there, it was very apparent that Jerry Tyser was not in a good mood. Have you ever picked up on this with people before? Like, do not cross them today, right? And man, like literally we walked in and the air was thick. We got in the van and one of my buddies cracked a joke and Jerry Tyser turned around and lit him up. Now we had about a 4-hour drive to get to where we were going and we all just like stopped talking. Like you could barely breathe. Okay? Barely breathe. Here's what happened. We drove by his house, okay? He said, I forgot something. He literally opens the door, slams it, walks into his house. And we're all talking. We're like, man, I don't know what's going on with Coach, man, but I ain't saying nothing. Like, this is bad. He's gonna make us run probably 6 miles when we get there. And then all of a sudden, he wasn't in there 5 minutes, and he comes walking back out, and he's smiling and whistling. That's the Coach Tyser I know. He's smiling and whistling. He gets in the car. He gets in the van. He shuts the door. He goes, you guys ready? We're going to have a great trip. We're excited. State tournament, man. It's showtime. We got to go. And he backs out. And he completely changed who he was in 5 minutes. You with me? Time didn't change. I don't know what he did when he walked in. All I know is he went in, came out, he was completely different. He just changed the way that he showed up in time. You guys with me on that? So I think that's part of what we've got to do as well. Change the way that we show up in time. It comes down to how we show up, to Jackie's point, how present we are, and then how we can do that consistently. I love how Ed Milet said, right? Think about if people are focused on their 24-hour day and you get focused on these like 3 days in 1 day, how much more you're going to accomplish within time. Okay. I want to give you a couple more things. Tag Short says this. This is a great quote. Write this one down. Okay. Write this one down. The secret to success is found in your daily agenda. That's what he says. The secret to your success is found in your daily agenda. Right? What it is we plan to do, and then actually executing what we plan to do. And taking it a step further than that, team, it's not just doing it. Okay, sometimes it is, right? Sometimes we just got to get it done, all right? But it's also how effective and efficient and excellent did we do it, right? At what level am I operating within that first part of that first day, right? 6 a.m. to noon. At what level am I operating from noon to 6? At what level am I operating from 6 to midnight? And we start to break it down and squeeze time like that. Okay. Here's the question I want you to ask yourself.
Hey, Dusty, I was going to say something.
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, and I've got people showing up at my house right this second too. So sorry. The dogs are barking. The housekeepers are coming in. But that's right on topic, because I wanted to mention that it's not enough just to be managing ourselves within time, because if any of y'all are like me, we have a lot of stuff on our calendar, right? There is a lot of stuff we are trying to cram into a 24-hour period. What a lot of us need is leverage. We cannot do it all. Okay. And so when you are breaking your day into little tiny breaks isn't going to fix the fact that y'all need to be leveraging some of these things out. These nice ladies coming into my house right now are my heroes. The day I decided to leverage out the cleaning of my home was the best day ever.
That's right.
For some reason, my computer thinks I'm speaking Arabic. So if y'all don't know what I'm saying, just all right. So that's all. I'm going to mute myself so this noise is back on.
No, Julie, you're exactly right. I think as we look at each one of these days, I think that's one of the questions we got to ask ourselves, right? Hey, what do I need to leverage? Where am I? My cousin right over here, right? She wrote, we get so busy, right? Doing other things or serving others, which isn't a bad thing. And yet maybe we got to bring in some leverage, or we've got to honor some things for ourselves. What does it look like? And that leverage piece is huge within time. Huge within time. Okay. You heard him talk about what happens when things don't go his way, right? And what did he talk about? He said he just stops, right? listens to something different, changes his position, changes his state. So I want you to write this question down. What can you see when you look at a person's daily agenda? What can you see when you look at a person's daily agenda? Let me hear from you. What do you think you can see when you look at a person's daily agenda? If I were to open up your schedule right now, okay, some of you just got nervous. You're like, what do you mean schedule? Right? If I were to open up your schedule right now, what would I see? What would it show me? Ryan Holmes wrote down priorities. You agree with that? I should be able to see what's important to you, yes or no? And if it's on your calendar, it's important to you. You with me? Okay. What else can I see if I look at your calendar? What do I see? Anybody? I'm going to give them to you. I'm just asking your thoughts. Non-negotiables. I like that, Michaela. Patterns. Yeah, I love that, Michael Cheever. Patterns. You're going to see them, especially as you start looking at this as 6 to noon, noon to 6, and then 6 to, you're going to see it. Okay. Holmes wrote down how much they prepared the day before. Okay. You've heard me say this before. I'll say it again. You will perform at your level of preparation. Your calendar is part of your preparation. You with me? That's part of it. Okay. If you don't plan your day will run you. My bride has always said to me, Dusty, if you don't run your calendar, everybody else will have no problem running it for you. Like if you don't pick it and you don't, okay? I want to give you a few things, okay? This is John Maxwell. I want to give you a few things that he talks about in what we should see and what we do see when we look at a person's calendar, okay? Here's what they are. First one, priorities. We're going to see what's important to you, okay? If it's important to you, it goes on the calendar, doesn't it? All right? Secondly, we should be able to see your passion. Your passion. What are you passionate about? Hey, let me ask you this. We talked about at the beginning of the call that we've got to make sure we understand, we know why, we know where we're going, right? If you're passionate about why you do what you do, we should be able to see that. Okay? What are you passionate about? Do we see that in your daily agenda? But don't you think your day will go better if you're doing things that you're passionate about? Right? I mean, yes or no? Wouldn't my day be better if I'm doing things that I'm passionate about? The next one is you're going to see relationships. You're going to see the relationships that are important to you. That's why I said to you at 6 o'clock, work stops at the Oglesby house. Okay? Because that's our time to sit down and have dinner as a family, to sit down and play a game, to sit down and watch a show, to sit down and talk, right? What does that look like for you? Your relationships. You make time for the relationships that are important for you, to you. Okay? On that note, there should be some non-negotiables around your relationships, yes or no? Okay? All right. Next is your attitude. That we should be able to see your attitude based on your calendar. How you are showing up. This goes back to what Ernest asked earlier. Okay? This goes back to what Ernest asked earlier. He said, hey, Coach, how do we do this? How do we start this off? And I said, just like we start off this call, right? Let me ask you this. When you get up and you get time alone and you journal and you get your mind right and your heart right, is your attitude different throughout the day? Yes or no? You tell me. It is, yes or no? You just show up different. So we've got to identify the things that make us show up different. Working out. Okay, so let me tell you something. When my bride works out, completely different woman. Completely different. Okay, her attitude's different. She responds different. She knows this, right? Same for me. Okay, So what are those things for you that adjust your attitude within your calendar? Okay. Next is your disciplines. It's going to reveal your disciplines. Do you have things on there? Michael Cheever put patterns. Do you have patterns on there? The question would be, the patterns that you identify on your calendar, are they serving you well or are they not serving you well? Okay. Are they serving you well or are they not serving you well? The next one is vision. We should be able to see your vision, where you're going in your calendar, in your daily agenda. And then the final one is your influence. We should be able to see your influence. Okay. And Julie, I love what Julie, one of our defined coaches, Julie's one of our defined coaches. Here's what she wrote. If you're feeling out of sync or unfulfilled, write down what your priorities, what priorities are in order, and then compare that list to your schedule or what you did the previous day if you don't keep a schedule. How do they match up? What adjustments do you need to make? What Julie just said right there is what Ed Milet is doing 3 times a day. You with me? Instead of him just doing it once a day, he's doing it 3 times a day. Sitting down, if I feel out of sync and out of order between 6 a.m. and noon, does that mean that my whole day is blown? No. I got another day coming. I've got noon to 6. Okay. What adjustments do I need to make based on my priorities in order to make the next day better than the first day? Okay, you with me on this? All right. So all of these things, I want to give you a couple best practices, okay? Number one is set your calendar on Sunday before your week even starts. Take time to sit down and make your calendar for the week. Now, here's one thing I'll tell you. Gary Keller talks about this in the one thing. He says you and I have to time block in order to time block, okay? Right? You have to time block 30 minutes to sit down and time block the rest of your week. Right? And then every night, go back and revisit what your day looks like. Now, the next best practice would be what Ed Milet taught us today, which is every single time you get to that noon time, reassess. Every time you get to 6 p.m., reassess. And I think you'll find yourself being much, much more, moving much, much more forward, okay? So let's hear from you here in the last few minutes. What are some things you wrote down? One other thing to do as you start to raise your hand is this. Make sure that each day you are grading yourself. I would grade yourself now on 3 periods, okay? Christina, I love that. Christina says she does hers on Fridays and then preps on Sundays. I love that. Brilliant. Make sure that you're rating yourself on a 1 to 10 how well you're honoring it. So from your 6 to noon time, just stop. Ed Milet said he'd take 6 seconds. Take 6 seconds and go, what would I rate my morning? It was a 5. Okay, what am I going to do to make sure that from noon to 6 that it's a 10? Right? It's taking that self-awareness and self-check. So let's hear from some of you. Rhett, you had your hand up, buddy. What do you got?
The one thing I wrote down was, you asked earlier, what would we see on those who we find successful on their schedules? And to me, it's daily consistencies on their schedule. Repetition rewards us. So for me personally, with my success list and stuff that I do daily, I've been humbled and put in my place in regards to things that are easy to do or also easy not to do. And when they don't find their way on my list, even as simple as something that is here, is actually number 1 is to make bed. One, I get to draw a line through that and build my confidence up and repetition and what's the word? A motivation of the day that I'm getting things done. But if you're going to get it done, then you're going to have to write it down and put it in place. And with that being said, actually writing something down, whether to remember it or to do it later, in my opinion, once you've done that, you've already started the motion for accomplishment. I think in some cases that's the most important step.
I love that. I love that, Rhett. Well said. One of the things Rhett does, teams, he has a note card. He does it every day, puts his priorities on it. Ferret put scripture on it to keep him grounded. And that's his daily agenda. Like that's what he does. Okay. That's simple. It's just a system. He just puts it on a note card. Okay. What else you got? Anybody else? What'd you learn today? What are you taking away today, or any questions you have? What do we got? What do we got?
It does seem.
Yes, sir.
For me, I feel like there are many days where my morning won't be set or doesn't follow the way that I plan. And there are many times when I'm like, you know what? I've already tried. My day's over. Let's just go and do something completely different. And I love how you can split it up by days in the single day, because if the morning doesn't turn out okay because there's traffic or whatever it is, that's okay, because then you get to start over again. And for me, that's like super mind blowing. I love that.
That's right. That's right. It's just, team, I think it's our natural human nature just to get caught up in all the stuff. You guys with me on this? Like this, there's going to be stuff every day. What this allows us to do is to stop, hit a reset button, walk around the building. Okay. Listen to a podcast. Okay. Turn on some music, do something that will, I call it a pattern interrupt. Okay. Like what? I need a pattern interrupt to make sure that I get back on track on my day. Okay. You with me on this? All right. So it's like if you're on a diet and all of a sudden you eat a couple Skittles, you're like, oh man, I wasn't supposed to eat any Skittles, but I already ate 2. So I might as well eat the whole bag. Okay. You don't have to eat the whole bag of Skittles. Okay. Cherie, you didn't blow it. You just ate 2 Skittles. Are you guys tracking with me on this? Go, like, have a pattern interrupt. Okay. Put the Skittles up. Go get an apple. You're hungry. It'll accomplish the same thing. It'll just be better for you. All right. You get to choose Skittles or apple. There you go. Ice cream, totally okay, Michael. Totally okay. Ice cream's a different ball game. Okay. Ice cream's in its own arena. I love it. I love it. Let's see. Ryan Holmes said, check with it to make sure. Oh yeah. Make sure microphone works. Check with IT to make sure microphone works. Good point. Good point. Okay. Anybody else this morning, team? Well, hey, I trust this was helpful to you today. Here's what I can tell you. You're in day 1 right now. Okay. You're in day 1 right now. It's going to be what you make of it. All right. Reassess at noon today. Stop. Give a pattern interrupt. Hey, what went well? Where do I need to adjust? I've got 6 hours in front of me. I'm going to go execute in these 6 hours. Okay. And then make sure you do the same thing at 6 p.m. tonight. Stop, reset, and make sure we're ready to move forward. Jackie, I can't wait to see you in Upper Marlboro. I'll be there on April 25th. I'll be in a lot of different places coming up. We're excited to bring Define One Day to you guys all over the country. We're loading them up over here. So get ready.
Abilene on Friday.
That's right. Abilene, Texas.
Hey, it works.
Friday.
My mic works.
There he is. He fixed it.
828.
Hey guys, we love you. Bless you. Have an incredible day. All right. Have an incredible 3 days today in 1 day, and make sure your non-negotiables are non-negotiable. You're welcome. I love you. Take care. Bye-bye.